So last time we talked about while loops, and remember there are four different kinds of loops, two of which belong to the while family and two of which belong to the for family. The second member of the while loop family is called the do while. And it is very similar to the regular while loop with one significant material difference. Previously our example was, what if we wanted to prompt the user for some input and then based on that input, determine if we still want to loop. And previously we used a while loop, right? And so we would declare our Boolean called keep going, and we would default that to true. And then we would use the while keyword, open parens, and then put in our Boolean condition. In this case, we want to track our Boolean variable. And then we would do the work. We would analyze the current state. And then we would set the loop condition based on our analysis, right? And this gives the loop an opportunity to terminate. But if you think about this for a moment, what if our keep going was actually set by some external thing? What if we were not hard coding that Boolean, but instead we called some other method that returned a Boolean? Or maybe there's code that precedes our Boolean. And so the possibility that it starts off as false is very real. It's possible that particular Boolean starts as false. And what happens if that thing starts off as false and then we reach our while loop? Well, let's set up the same example we had before. Let's just give them a basic prompt, something like enter exit to stop the loop, just like we did last time. And again, we're going to do string input equals, and then we're going to talk to our input reader and ask it to read the next line of input from the user. And then we're going to do a quick analysis. We're going to say keep going equals, and as long as it's not the case that input equals, and we're going to use ignore case here. Again, remember, we don't care if they make it capital or lowercase. We're going to accept the word exit no matter what. As long as it's not the word exit, then we're going to go ahead and keep going. Okay, but now, in our example, this thing is false. So what happens when we execute this code? After a quick save, we hit play. Oh, wait. We hit play and oh, wait. Did you see what happened? You see, the console didn't come up because when main ran, it got to that Boolean, set it to false, got to the while loop, did the analysis, and because it was already false, nothing got printed to the console. The loop never actually executed the body. So then, when it sees that this condition is false, it immediately goes to the end of the loop and then continues on with main. Well, there's nothing left in main. We get to the end of main, so the application simply ends. Right? So in truth, our code was executing. In fact, I can prove that by just throwing in a quick sys out here and just saying while loop starting. And then down here at the end, I will do another sys out. And I will say while loop ending. And that way we know that something's happening. If I go ahead and execute this code, sure enough, the loop starts, never executes the body, and then ends immediately. And then we end main. Okay, cool. So, yeah, if we have a situation where the condition of the loop is completely dependent on some external force, maybe it's dependent on some user input, or maybe it's dependent on some other method and its determinations, but we still need some process to take place at least once, then this is the kind of place we want a do-while loop. And a do-while loop is really easy. First, if you already have a while loop written, it's easy to change it to a do-while. We simply cut the while and its condition and put it at the end. And, unlike any other loop in Java, we end this statement with a semicolon. This is the only loop that ends in a semicolon. And that's because we're trying to tell Java that this while statement ends here and doesn't continue on into some other curly braces. But why do they call it a do-while loop? Well, we have to start with the do keyword. So where while used to be, go ahead and put the do keyword. Now what we're saying is, first execute all of this code. And then after this code has executed, then check the condition. You see, the material difference between a while and a do while has everything to do with when it actually checks the condition. The while checks the condition at the very beginning of the code. It checks the condition here, and if it's true, then it runs the code. But like you saw a moment ago, if this condition is not true, even before this code has ever had a chance to run, it simply gets skipped. On the other hand, a do while checks its condition down at the bottom of the code. So after the body has executed, then the condition is checked. That is the fundamental difference between a while loop and a do while loop, when the condition is checked. So now that this is a do while loop, I'm going to go ahead and see what happens even though this condition is already false. So let me go ahead and save with a Control-Shift-S, good habits and all that. And then I hit the play button, and it does say that the loop is starting, right? That's this line of code right here. It says the loop is starting, and then the prompt occurs. Now, the condition is false, but the do comes first, and the do says, run this code. So now we are inside of the loop body. We are printing out the prompt. And so I'm going to go ahead and just hit enter like I did before. I'm going to be like the number 1 like I did before. And then I'm going to say like, hi there, like I did before. And I'll even type in the word X, but not exit. And then finally, I'll do EX capital I or capital XI and lowercase t and hit enter. And then you can see that the loop ends. So now we've seen the do while in action, right? And we see that the condition is checked after the code has executed. Do while loops are extremely useful. In fact, they are best used in, say, a menu scenario or any scenario where you're taking in user input and you're either validating it or determining whether you wish to loop again based on that user input. So in either of these two cases, a do while loop is preferable to a while.